Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Welcome back to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. I'm Barbara Hardt.
And I'm Doug Armitage. And now for this week's news.
Our intro music is performed by local band New Family Dog. Lead vocalist John Black Dog Ridnell says the music was inspired by a memory of a woman. Their new album is called Halo. It features John Ridnell, Miles Ridnell, Sally Van Meter, and Michael Wooten. You can find out more information about John Ridnell at www.johnridnell.com.
This episode is brought to you by Glacierfest, the Netherlands Equestrian School, the Very Nice Brewing Company, Mountain Man Outdoor Store, Hardt's Backhoe, Rightwood Music, and of course, the Mountaineer newspaper.
In the middle of a party that's being thrown, been that way most of the time. I was happiest when I ain't had a dime. Now I know what it's to be 6 feet under. It was a fool.
I'm Jamie Lammers, and this is my interview with Carolyn Hahn for St. Mary's Glacier's music event, Glacierfest 2021.
I'm Carolyn Hahn. I live in St. Mary's Glacier.
You guys are about to host Glacierfest 2021. Can you tell me a little bit about the festival?
Well, we are an all-day free music festival up in the Rocky Mountains, so everything's always cooler up here. We can be at 20 or more degrees cooler than Denver, so it's a pleasant place to be in the summer. We have a lot of food vendors and alcohol vendors and craft vendors and art, and it's an all-day festival up here in the mountains.
And can you tell me a little bit about the history behind this festival? When did it start? How long has it been going? And what makes it so special in the eyes of everybody who comes there?
Well, I don't know how far back it goes. We see posters in our old one-room schoolhouse that show that it was done back in the 80s. But I think at that point it was done mostly as a community event. So they'd bring some local artists up and mostly the neighbors would just get together and enjoy it. But starting in 2018, we decided to turn this into a bigger than the community festival. And so we lined up bands all day and we had a handful of vendors that came and had a beautiful day and ended up with probably about 2,000 people here throughout the day. So it worked well. We did it again in 2019, but it rained all day. So it was not the huge success of the year before, but all of our vendors said they made money. So we felt like in the end it was good and the bands all played and we danced in the rain. Of course, it didn't happen in 2020 because of COVID. And so we are really thrilled to be able to offer it again in 2021.
How are you guys handling the festival with COVID in mind this year?
Well, we know the outbreaks now have just started to increase. They have increased here in Clear Creek County as well, which is where the festival is being held. The good news is it is an outdoor festival, and for the most part, I know here locally in our county, we have about 70% of the people that are vaccinated, and being an outdoor festival, we think it can be done pretty safely. People can keep their own distances if they want to, and we certainly encourage anyone who's not vaccinated to wear a mask like everybody else, and if you're not comfortable, to wear a mask anyway, even if you are vaccinated. But being that it's an all-outdoor festival, we think it's going to be a safe one.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the events that are lined up for the day?
Well, we've got musicians playing all day. We start off with Amy Rose Scott, who's a solo act at 11 a.m. She plays a 90-minute set. And then we take a half-hour break. One of our features in this event is something we are calling the Orc Mart races. Our community's history is gold and silver mines. So we have a little hill that we have 4-person teams do relay to run gold and silver up this little hill in orc carts that we provide. And it's mostly just a fun event. We encourage people to dress in costume, and it's based on best time and best costume. We have 2 sets of prizes for that event. So that happens right around lunchtime. That's at 12:30 to 1 p.m. A little race that takes place up here. From 1 to 2:30, we have the High Country Blues Rockers, who are going to play for us. And then we have another local band that everyone loves from 3 to 4:30 called the Kind Mountain Band. They're a bluegrass band. And then we kick the night off from 5 to 7 o'clock, a 2-hour set with a band out of Denver called Influx. It's mostly a really good cover band. So we've got music all day, food all day, and then the York Cart races in the middle of the day, which is kind of just a fun, silly event.
Can you tell us what sticks out to people most about Glacierfest and why you guys do it on a yearly basis and what makes it so special to everybody who comes?
Well, the setting. It takes place in St. Mary's Glacier, which, if you haven't been here, is one of the most beautiful places in Colorado. We have a glacier here that people can hike up to. It's only a 3/4-mile hike, and we're only an hour from Denver. So it's a very popular hike with tourists and locals alike because it's fairly short, fairly easy to do if you're from the flatlands, if you're not used to the altitude. It's certainly an easy hike to do up here. And so people can do the hike before or after the event, come down, grab a beer, grab lunch, enjoy some music. And the event itself takes place on the banks of Silver Lake. And if you haven't seen that before, if you go to our website, which is stmaryspoa.com/glacierfest, you'll see several pictures that will show you the view that you have. So you're listening to music in one of those beautiful places in Colorado. People really like that. And obviously the temperatures. You can't beat when your high is 70 degrees and the sun's shining. Pretty beautiful place to sit and listen to music. The event takes place at 10,000 feet. We're way up here.
What sticks out to you personally about the festival? What has stuck out to you about it in the past, and what are you excited for this year?
Well, I think it feels like a local festival, if that makes sense. Everybody's friendly. You're all here having a good time. It's not pretentious at all. You come casual and just enjoy. We try to make it affordable for families. That was our big thing. We have several nonprofits that we allow events for free. We don't charge them to come so that they can get the word out about all the good things that they do in our community. We only charge $5 for parking, and that's just to help us pay for our bands because they're fairly expensive. The admission to the event itself is free, and we provide $5 parking within the short distance of where the event actually takes place. I think it feels very much like a mountain event. It just has kind of a flavor and a friendliness of it, the friendliness of the mountain.
Anything else about the festival that you're excited for people to see or that you want to mention before we wrap this up?
I think if they like hiking, it's definitely one of the most beautiful places to hike, and it's a pretty easy hike, as I mentioned. It's a 1.5-mile round trip to go up and actually touch snow in August, which is a pretty fun thing to do. We have people that will ski it all year round. They can actually ski down the glacier, so that's kind of fun to see. So it's a great environment, and you don't have to obviously do the hike. You can simply come and enjoy the music on the banks of the lake, and beautiful setting, absolutely stunning, spectacular setting to sit and listen to some good music.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it from me. Thank you so much for coming on board.
All right. Well, thanks. I'm glad I found you. I don't even remember how I found you, but I did. We appreciate the publicity. The first year we lost a little bit of money because we had a lot of upfront costs, signage, and all that kind of stuff that you got to pay for that first year. But we're actually, I guess the last time we did it, even with all the rain, as an event, we came out just a slight bit ahead. But that's all our goal is, really. It's just to put on a good event, and we're not trying to make a lot of money. We're just trying to break even. So we appreciate the free advertising is what I'm trying to say. Because every expense we have up front it eats into that. So
for sure. And we appreciate you coming on board and talking to us about this event.
Glacierfest 2021 will take place on Saturday, August 14th at St. Mary's Glacier, located at 9414 Fall River Road in Idaho Springs. As a reminder, the artists that will be performing there include Amy Rose Scott at 11 a.m., the High Country Blues Rockers Band at 1 p.m., the Kind Mountain Band at 3 p.m., and In Flux at 5 p.m. If you want to learn more about Glacierfest 2021, visit their Facebook events page or go online to www.stmaryspoa.com/glacierfest. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for doing this interview.
And now to the news desk. Peak to Peak musicians and artists, we're looking for you. Would you like a feature story in a printed edition of The Mountaineer on our podcast website or social media? Interviews are completed in person with our professional journalists. We are your community newspaper. Interested? Email publisher@themountaineer.com to get on the list for upcoming editions.
Check out this week's full music listing in print or online at www.themtnear.com and click on Music of the Mountains.
This week's Backdoor Theater movie is Black Widow. The movie is about Natasha Romanoff, who confronts the darker parts of her ledger when a dangerous conspiracy with ties to her past arises. It's rated PG-13. The show runs August 13th and 14th at 7 p.m. and offers an August 14th matinee at 2 p.m.
Brightwood Music in Nederland rents all of your needed school instruments for band and orchestra for the full school year. They also rent instruments by the day, week, and month. Having a backyard barbecue with family musicians coming in from out of state? They have the guitar you need to play your favorite music. Need a banjo, an upright bass, or violin? Yeah, they have those too. Brightwood Music is family-owned and operated and has been a Nederland staple for more than a decade. They are located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, Unit 109 in Nederland, and can be reached at 303-258-8863, or you can find them on Facebook at Brightwood Music.
On March 26, 2020, the Federal Aviation Administration implemented a new policy, the Denver Metroplex Plan, which shifted more flight paths over lesser populated areas of Colorado, including Gross Reservoir, Coal Creek Canyon, and the southern edge of Boulder County. While the impact of this flight plan wasn't initially realized as the outbreak of COVID slowed travel, by the summer of 2021, the increase in travel made citizens of these smaller areas realize just how impactful the airplane noise was. Here to discuss what exactly has been happening these past couple of months with the airplane noise is Sheila Ranegar of the Nederland Equestrian School.
I'm Sheila Ranegar.
Where are we right now?
We are at 1508 Lazy Z Road, which is also Nederland Equestrian School, just outside of Nederland. And I have a boarding facility and a riding school.
Recently, you've had to send a letter to Hickenlooper?
I sent a letter to all three of our representatives and got a message back from Hickenlooper's office that a meeting is being scheduled to address the airplane noise.
Can you explain real quick what the problem is with the airplane noise?
Over a year ago, just before the pandemic, they switched the flight patterns out of DIA. It's called the Denver Metroplex or something like that. They basically funneled all of the Western flights into 3 flight patterns, and all 3 of them can be heard from our property. One is directly above us, one to the north, and one to the south. So we went from less than 30 flights a day to over 100 flights a day, and many of the flights are much, much lower, so therefore much louder. It's pretty much constant. There isn't more than 20 minutes in a day where we don't hear airplane noise.
I remember seeing on Facebook that you wrote the letter to Hickenlooper, and you had, I think it was a week of basically logging how much airplane noise there was.
It was actually just one day. One day on my log was 99 flights. But I was working, and there were times where I just stopped logging them. So that's where I get my number of over 100. And some were small planes. Most of them are commercial jets.
And I remember somebody posting on Facebook that had a video of an F-18 Growler just flying like 200 feet above them.
Yeah, there's times when they go by that you can see the color of the plane, you can see the numbers on the plane. You have to stop talking. You cannot continue a conversation when the plane goes over. There's one right now that you can hear in the house with the windows closed.
I don't know if the microphone's picking that up, but
right. It may not be, but we can hear it.
Yeah, we can definitely hear it.
It's constant. The first one that's really loud is at about 5:15 in the morning. Then there's another one that's really loud at 11:15 at night. So it's interrupting our sleep. It's not healthy on a lot of levels.
And since you run an equestrian school here, I can only imagine that's probably had a harmful effect on being able to teach and possibly distress the animals on some level.
I'm sure it distresses the animals because it distresses me. If the noise isn't distressing them, me being distressed definitely affects them because they read body language, and I've definitely been not as patient of an instructor as I usually am.
Right, but that's just because the noise is so irritating. Mm-hmm. To clarify again, when did the flight patterns really start changing, and when did it really start affecting the acoustics here in the ranch?
The acoustics here on the ranch, we started seeing a big increase. June was when it really became noticeable, and that's also when my program really gets started because the kids are out of school. And we had a lot of rain and snow in May, so we weren't outside as much. But then as soon as we were outside, then it was just a constant increase. Last year, the flight pattern was in place, but there were hardly any flights because of the pandemic. So as people started traveling more, then we started realizing how this new flight path really is affecting us. So it's really been the last 3 months that have constantly increased the number of flights overhead.
Was there anything else that you felt like you needed to take action for in order to try and get the situation resolved?
No. Coal Creek Canyon community has been working with their commissioners to try and get a meeting for over a year, I believe. And so the meeting that's happening August 17th is a result of that, and more people being affected by the amount of noise. For me, yes, it's annoying, but it's also a much bigger issue. If there isn't limitations on flights, future generations will never know what quiet is. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is, yes, it's driving me crazy, but what is our reality on this planet if there isn't major regulation for this industry that's driven by greed? Bottom line for me. And yes, we're fighting a huge industry. We're fighting the federal government. How do we make these changes? These changes aren't going to come easy. And the only way that we're going to make them is grassroots and getting people to pay attention and to realize that air pollution is very detrimental to our health, not to mention global warming and all of the other things that are tied to the planes and to many different things, obviously. There's so many issues right now. But for me, this is the one that I'm like, okay, I have to change this or I'm going to have to move. Bottom line.
So were you the one that kind of initiated trying to reach out to people and say, like, this is becoming way more of a problem?
I'm one of many people. I think a lot of people, it's been bothering them. But when I put it out on Facebook, I had over 60 people saying like, oh, yeah, it's driving me crazy too. Where they're like, oh yeah, I guess maybe we don't really have to tolerate this. So I think by putting it out on Facebook and getting it farther than just the Coal Creek community, that's how you found out about it. I put it out there. I'm like, okay, the only way we can change this is through numbers. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think it'll come fast, but I think the more people that are aware of it will start paying attention. You can't go for an evening hike without constant airplane noise. And I know that they funneled the traffic away from Rocky Mountain National Park, which is great for the park visitors. But it's really hard to get a pass to go to the park. You have to plan 2 weeks ahead of time, and us mountain folks like to just hop in the car and go over to the park. Even hiking at Brainerd. We were at Brainerd the other evening, and there were at least 10 planes during a couple-hour hike. It's not the national park, but it's a wilderness area. It's frustrating because we choose to live up here and have the inconveniences of living in the mountains. The dirt roads, dealing with the snow, not having takeout. There's a lot of things, of conveniences of the city that we don't have. And we choose to live where it's quiet. A lot of the airline are flying lower so they're not climbing over the cities. So they start climbing when they hit us. So that makes it even louder because there's more people in the cities to complain about the noise. They already live with noise. They live with traffic noise. They accept the fact that they live in an area where there is constant noise. We live up here because of the quiet, and we've accepted the planes my whole life. There's been planes. Born and raised in Netherlands. I've been here my whole life. It is a part of life, but to have all of them funneled over one community is just simply not fair.
With your meeting on August 17th, which I assume you guys are thrilled to have been able to have gotten, what are you hoping to talk to people about in order to hopefully get the train rolling on getting the flight plans switched?
Well, basically the awareness of how disruptive it is to the mountain community, and that it's not just individual people who are complaining, that it is a more widespread problem. Just to get it out there, to get it in front of the federal government that says, okay, this is an issue. How do we address this issue? I'm not super optimistic that a lot will come out of the meeting other than educating the people who are finally going to listen to the mountain community.
And hopefully that education will allow them to realize that they need to make a change.
Yeah, and then being instrumental in how's that change going to look? How will that work?
What are you personally hoping to resolve with this next meeting?
The first step for us to give us some relief would be for the flights to be higher, to gain altitude faster, because they used to be much higher. And I'm sure that because they've consolidated the flights, they all have to be at a different elevation. So for us, it would be to reduce the noise, to maybe alternate somehow so that we at least get some quiet. Give us a break, basically. Don't give us the constant noise. And if we know that Tuesdays is going to be the heavy traffic day, I'll take the day off, I'll go somewhere. But it's every single day the same flights at the same time, the same loudness, and then you add in all of the little planes from the Boulder, Denver, Longmont area flying around, seeing the beautiful view, which I'd love to do sometime, but they are really loud because they're just cruising around looking at the view, and sometimes they'll circle around one area for a long time. So the little planes are a problem too. It's not just the commercial jets, but there's been a huge increase in private planes.
Is there anything else personally that you would want to add about how the planes have been affecting everybody and what you hope to see in the near future with the calming of the noise?
Well, like I said, just give us a break. Let it be a little bit less and draw attention to the fact that this is a bigger issue, that there needs to be limitations on how many planes can be in our skies, that it's the beginning of a bigger battle and that people will pay attention to that. I know it's not going to be an easy answer because they put this computerized plan into place and it'll take a bit to change it.
But hopefully it'll at least get some progress going.
Right. Well, the wildlife, I'm sure there are studies about how the airplane traffic affects the wildlife and the horses. We live up here with a lot of company. We have a lot of neighbors when they're not of the human form. And how is this affecting them? Sadly, sometimes the wildlife gets more attention than the humans do. So get some environmentalists up here doing some studies on the airplane noise and how it affects the animals. I don't know anybody, but hopefully somebody will hear this and I'll do that.
We really appreciate you coming onto the podcast and talking about this. Hopefully the meeting at least gets something going in the right direction.
I hope so.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for coming on board to talk about this. Remember, the Nederland Equestrian School is located at 1508 Lazy Road. But on a more important note for this particular story, the meeting to discuss the implications of the Denver Metroplex plan will be held at the Gilpin Community Center on Tuesday, August 17th, 2021 at 5 p.m. The meeting, which will be an open work session, was organized by the Gilpin Board of County Commissioners on behalf of GRIFT, Gilpin Residents Resist Increased Flight Traffic. For more information about the previous efforts of GRIFT, visit their Facebook page at facebook.com/GRRIFT.
Do you have a business in the Peak-to-Peak region? Send us your pitch. We cover every business in the region from Allens Park to Central City, with all of the towns and canyons in between. Email publisher@themountaineer.com to be included in an upcoming edition of our business short takes.
Levitt Street Market is open every Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Central City. The market has several vendors offering fresh produce, pottery, jams and jellies, local business booths, and more. Stop by 300 Gregory Street in Central City to check it out.
The Carousel of Happiness will celebrate Merry Wingate Days this weekend, August 14th and 15th, with free carousel rides for all. The carousel will be open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., both Saturday and Sunday.
My name is Jamie Lammers, and this is my interview with local musician Ashley Priest.
I'm Ashley Priest.
You are going to be performing where again and when?
I'm going to be playing at the Jamestown Merc on August 22nd. I believe the start time is 12 to 2.
And how long have you been playing music or writing music or experimenting with music in general?
My musical journey is definitely a long one. I started playing the guitar when I was 8, so that's a long time ago. But it was kind of like an up and down relationship with playing the guitar. I took a few years off every now and then and didn't really start like diving into songwriting until 2017. I went through a really big breakup, and there's nothing better than a breakup to spark songwriting. So just fell into it, started doing it. Also met some other musicians that kind of helped inspire me and taught me a lot of what I know, or just encouraged me to write my own music. And then started going to open mics. And then I think I played my first solo show at the Laughing Goat in maybe November 2018. And I've kind of been splattering myself in different venues around Boulder. And I just played in Denver a couple of weeks ago for the first time. So slowly building momentum.
You mentioned that there were some influences music-wise. What are some of those influences?
Oh, that's a great question. There's an artist from England, Laura Marling, and I'm a huge fan of hers. I listened to her when I was like 17, 18, when her first songs came out, and I didn't know at the time, but she's my age, and so
I feel like when I started getting into songwriting, I was listening to her more and learning more about her, and then found out she was my age, and for some reason that just blew my mind that she wrote such phenomenal music at such a young age, and also just helped make me not feel too out of the loop or that it was too out of my grasp.
What inspired you to really start pursuing songwriting and making you feel confident that you could write music that could speak out to so many people?
I mean, it was mostly friends from the beginning, but yeah, I think I had both friends who were just music fans as well as friends who are musicians who were just really encouraging, and I really think just their support and people at open mics giving me compliments and hearing other people's support was what I needed to dive first into it. But like when I look back on my life of my relationship to music, once I did step into that path, I realized that that's actually something that I've wanted to do for a really long time and just never really knew it. I didn't really notice that like when I was at a show and I was watching an amazing front woman or front man performing, that the feeling I was feeling was like, oh, I want to be doing that. I thought it was purely just admiration, but it was admiration as well as longing to want to do it as well.
And you mentioned you're actually from England.
I'm actually from Australia.
Okay, because I noticed the accent and I was like, she sounds Australian, but then she mentioned England and there we go.
Yeah,
so you're from Australia.
Uh-huh.
So you are from Australia. What made you decide to move to Colorado?
I mean, long story short, a boy, just followed a boy who was from New York. We met traveling in Europe when I was 21, and he was like, I'm going to grad school in Colorado. And I was like, cool, I'm not doing anything with my life, so I'll come. And it's pretty much as simple as that. We're no longer together. We broke up maybe almost 4 years ago, but I'm still here and still love it, and we're still good friends.
It sounds like it ended on pretty good terms, which is good.
It did, yeah. He kind of probably got the kick out of having songs written about him.
Oh, for sure. I can only imagine. Is there anything about coming from Australia and then moving to America that you think has influenced your songwriting at all?
I mean, in a very specific, acute way, I wrote a song about home and searching for home, so it definitely influenced that song in particular. But in terms of like my style and how I perform, I feel like it's been this like constant thing that just kind of lingers over me in terms of how I sound when I'm singing, in terms of singing with an accent or not singing with an Australian accent. I've listened to old recordings when I first started recording myself, and my accent is way stronger, as well as my speaking accent too. And I actually heard something somewhere recently, I think my aunt told me that musically eared people tend to adopt whatever accent, like the country they're living in, a lot easier, like unintentionally, but just because of our musical ear and how good we are at kind of fitting in. So I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, I feel like my accent has kind of been lost a little bit unintentionally, and that's something I'm trying to pay more attention to and try and not shy away from sounding a little different. You know, the vowels come out sounding so weird sometimes, but I love it, so I try and incorporate that where it feels right.
And one in particular to you sticks out about performing live or performing music in general that really makes it a career you want to continue pursuing?
I think I just there's just something in me that says, do you want to do this? So I just keep listening to that. Like, part of me just won't be satisfied if I stop pursuing it. It'll feel like unfinished if I don't keep going, if that makes sense. I don't know, there's just something in me that says keep going.
There's just that drive.
I've sang like my whole life. I definitely used to be a lot more shy when I was younger. I used to play my guitar behind shut bedroom doors like most of my life. Never really liked to sing in front of people. Then when I started traveling and realized, when you're across the world and singing in front of strangers, it feels a lot less scary because you're never going to see them again. And that's kind of what broke me out of my fear of singing in front of people. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I definitely still have extreme stage jitters, even before an open mic, but from what I hear of other performers, that's something that just exists forever for a lot of people.
I think nervousness is definitely an inherent part of performing, but is there any particular method that you use to cope with that nervousness?
Honestly, that's something that I'm starting to realize I need to find a coping mechanism. I mean, I use breathing techniques definitely before a show. I also just find hanging out with friends before and just being social and kind of not thinking about what I'm about to do is what I tend to do. Also, lemon balm tea is really soothing and calming.
Are there any other shows that are coming up for you that you're excited to announce, or anything else that you just want to add about your music experience?
That's a good question. Let me pull up my calendar because I definitely have shows coming up, but I don't remember them all. I also sing in a funk band. We're called B-Love, and we're actually opening at the Fox Theatre for Banshee Tree on the 20th of August, which is very exciting. I've never sung on that stage, and it's definitely been like a goal of mine, so I'm really excited to be doing that. One day with my solo act, but this time I'm very excited to do it with the funk band. I have another solo show at Boco Cider on the 26th of August in North Boulder. I think September 11th I'm playing back down in Denver at the Roxy, and Friday the 24th of September I am opening for my friend at Trident in Boulder. It's crazy, like July was basically completely empty. I didn't play any shows at all, and all of a sudden they all just happen in a clump. So it's like the week of the 20th of August, there's like 3 or 4 things, and then nothing, and then, you know, it's all or nothing, it seems, at least for my schedule.
It's just a never-ending spike.
Uh-huh.
Oh
but I'm
God.
so excited, and I mean, my intention for 2020 had been my breakout year of, all right, I'm going to play so many shows, and I did have a good handful booked, which I did reschedule for this year, including some of the Boco shows that I've done. But recording is something that everybody tells me to do, and for many reasons, including just my own self-doubt, I haven't done it in a really official way yet. I have a good handful of friends who have all played around with producing songs of mine, none of which I've released to the world yet, but I really would like to. The last 2 winters in a row, I've said, okay, this winter I'm going to take it off and I'm going to record. It'll be perfect. It'll be snowing outside because I work outside during the summer. So I always have this idea that I'll record every winter. So maybe one day I'll say that and it will be true. But I really would like to make it true and really would love to record my music. I have like over 30 songs that I have written and just feel like I need to get them recorded to like get it done so I can continue moving forward.
Are there any solo releases that you can advertise at this particular moment?
Unfortunately not.
So basically just a funk band.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be looking forward to seeing you perform live at the Merc.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
That's about it for me. I don't know if you have anything else.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I feel like that feels good. This is my first interview ever, so I feel very thrilled.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jamie.
Thank you so much for coming on board, Ashley. If you want to catch her live, you can check her out at the Jamestown Mercantile, located on 108 Main Street in Jamestown, Colorado, on Sunday, August 22nd from 12 to 2 p.m.
And that's all for this week's episode of the Mountain Ear Podcast. All editions of the Mountain Ear Podcast are available on our website at www.themtnear.com and click on podcast.
You can also pick up this week's print edition of The Mountaineer in Nederland, Gilpin County, Ward, Jamestown, Gold Hill, Ferncliff, and Allens Park.
And go online to catch up on more local news. I'm Doug Armitage.
And I'm Barbara Hardt. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Now I know what to do. 6 feet under the river was a fool. There ain't nothing sad than being alone.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak-to-Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.